The death of President Ebrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash on May 19, 2024, has led to significant speculation about the future direction of Iran's policies under its new leadership. Raisi's presidency, marked by a hardline stance and significant domestic unrest, leaves behind a complex legacy that will shape the policies of the new government led by President Masoud Pezeshkian. Raisi's tenure was defined by a brutal crackdown on protests following the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022, widespread economic challenges, and strained international relations. His administration's hardline approach to domestic dissent and his prioritization of strict Islamic dress codes alienated many Iranians, particularly the younger generation. Economically, Raisi struggled with high inflation, unemployment, and the impact of stringent U.S. sanctions, which his administration managed only partially to mitigate through increased oil production and sales. United States Institute of Peace. Masoud Pezeshkian, the newly elected president, brings a different background and potentially a different approach to governance. A former vice president of Iran's parliament and a supporter of the 2015 nuclear deal, Pezeshkian's election has raised hopes for some degree of reform. However, the extent of his influence is limited by Iran's dual system of clerical and republican rule, where the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei retains significant power over major policy decisions, particularly in foreign affairs and the nuclear program. United States Institute of Peace. Domestically, Pezeshkian may focus on addressing the economic grievances that have plagued the country for years. His administration is expected to continue efforts to combat inflation and unemployment, and there may be attempts to reform subsidy systems more effectively than Raisi's administration managed. Given Pezeshkian's background, there could also be a push for more moderate social policies, potentially easing some of the strict regulations enforced under Raisi. However, these changes will depend heavily on the broader political dynamics and the extent of the supreme leader's support. United States Institute of Peace. In terms of foreign policy, Pezeshkian is likely to continue Iran's strategic pivot towards the east, strengthening ties with China and Russia. This aligns with Iran's long-term goal of reducing dependence on Western nations and countering U.S. influence in the region. However, Pezeshkian's support for the 2015 nuclear deal suggests he might pursue renewed diplomatic efforts with the West, particularly in negotiating sanctions relief in exchange for compliance with nuclear agreements. United States Institute of Peace. The relationship with the United States remains a critical aspect of Iran's foreign policy. Under Raisi, negotiations to restore the 2015 nuclear deal were strained, and the new administration will need to navigate these complex dynamics carefully. Any shift towards a more conciliatory approach will face significant internal resistance from hardliners who remain influential in Iran's political landscape. United States Institute of Peace. Iran's regional policies, particularly its involvement in conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and its support for Hezbollah in Lebanon, are unlikely to see major shifts. These policies are driven by strategic interests that transcend individual administrations. However, the new government might seek to recalibrate its approach to reduce international isolation and improve economic conditions through reduced regional tensions. United States Institute of Peace. The election of Masoud Pezeshkian as Iran's new president marks a potential inflection point in the country's domestic and foreign policies, while significant changes in foreign policy, particularly regarding the U.S. and regional involvement, may be constrained by the overarching power of the supreme leader. There is a possibility for moderate shifts in domestic policies and economic reforms. The coming months will reveal the extent to which Pezeshkian can navigate the complex political landscape of Iran and implement meaningful changes.